What's up, everybody? Welcome to We Have Cool Friends, the cool show where we interview our cool friends about the cool things they're doing. I'm Greg, and this is my cool friend, Jack Pattillo.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi,
Jack.
everyone.
How are you?
I'm great, Greg. It's good to be back in San Francisco. I love this place.
It's good to be back and have you here. That's the biggest thing. You know what I mean?
It's fun times.
Fredo came in, stunk up the joint with Tim yesterday. You got to drag his dead ass around all the time.
I know. I was like, hey, I'm going to San Francisco, and he was like, oh, can I please go to my friends at? And I was like, all right, fine.
Get in the car.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But hey, we're here now.
I'm glad you're here, Jack.
Thank you very much.
Of course, I think you go. Everybody knows who you are, but I get it all the time where people write in, they're like, I don't know who this person is.
Yes,
Greg introduces them too late. Jack Pattillo, how do you describe yourself to the audience?
To the kind of funny audience. So I'm Jack Pattillo. I helped co-create Achievement Hunter about 11 and a half years ago, almost 12 years ago, with Jeff Ramsey. I've been writing for Rooster Teeth, or I've been working with Rooster Teeth now for full-time over a decade, over 10 years. One of the older dudes over at Rooster Teeth.
Now you hire kids that are like 14.
Jesus, man. Yeah, these kids are so young now. For the first time ever, I feel like there's a genuine generation divide, which is weird. It's weird being the old guy.
Yeah.
And so, I've been working over there for a long time, do all the charity stuff over there. So, like, Extra Life goes through me, and all of our charity stuff we do goes through me. So, yeah, it's pretty fun. But I've been working on the internet now for, about 20 years. I wrote for Ain't It Cool News way back in the day.
Yeah.
Ended up over at Rooster Teeth, and, just making content and trying to make people laugh. So,
Well, I, of course, want to talk about all that. But
yes,
you're here with a purpose.
I am.
Achievement Hunter going on the road once again for Achievement Hunter Live, correct?
Yes. We're doing Los Angeles, Seattle, and San Francisco. San Francisco, if you're in this area, on March 20th, we're going to be playing at the Warfield. Yeah. And our friends over at Kind of Funny are going to be joining us. So if you want to see some of our
Barrett.
Kind of Funny buddies,
I'll be there.
Yeah, you can go see them as well. They're going to be joining us for a few bits. We Tim and Alfredo came up with a really, really great idea last night for one of the things. So I'll just say some musicians might be colliding on stage. So if you're a fan of the musician side of Rooster or of Achievement Hunter and Kind of Funny, you might see that happen. But anyway, so you can go to rtxevent.com, buy tickets there. If you're in the LA area, go to the one down there up in Seattle. We're playing Seattle the night before, so the 19th up in Seattle, and then the 13th down in LA. And then we do Off Topic Live the day after, which is the 14th in LA. So we're doing 4 shows over the course of 2 weeks. Should be a lot of fun. It's going to be exhausting. And then in between there, I have South by Southwest. So I literally fly back to Austin. I'm doing some panels during South by, and then fly back out to do more stuff.
Well, I was telling Jen about it last night, right? Where I'm like, oh, yeah, they're in town. She's like, oh, what brought them to town? I'm like, oh, well, they're promoting that, they're doing Achievement Hunter Live in San Francisco. She's like, when is that? And I chuckled. I'm like, oh, yeah, so at the end of GDC. At the end of our outside of E3, the week that is the most grueling for both of us, they're doing a live event that I'm going to go perform at, and you need to come.
Yeah, and I just realized,
oh, great, cool.
I just realized last night, so GDC ends during, on the Friday, we're doing AH Live here. So if you're at GDC, if you're any game developers or whatever, and want to come check it out, saying it's the last night of GDC, go get hammered, come see our show. Will be a lot funnier when you're drunk.
Exactly, and you guys aren't pulling out because of coronavirus.
No, we'll be here.
Yeah,
we're bringing coronavirus. We're gonna have vials,
spread it along the coast.
You can pick up. You can get a shirt. You can get a poster and some coronavirus, and take it with you.
So, Jack, the first question I have for you is simple.
Yes. What's that?
Do you have the time, I guess, or bandwidth to look at where you are now as you're on this show promoting that you're about to do yet another live event, because you guys do them all the time?
Yes.
And look back and think, this is how it was all supposed to go? This is what I always knew I was going to do?
So it's funny you mention that. So when I talk with Jeff, so Jeff and I created Achievement Hunter together.
Yeah.
Again, 12 years ago. If you were to ask me, like, what is the goal of Achievement Hunter? Like, where is this going to end? At the time, there wasn't really a lot of like video content, like video content on the internet. Like YouTube had only been around for a few years. No one was really doing that kind of stuff that we were doing.
Yeah.
And like when Jeff pitched me Achievement Hunter, he's like, it's Game Facts, but with video in the Rooster Teeth personality. And Game Facts was a text-based site way back in the day.
And Game Facts was where it was at.
Oh, absolutely.
I use Game Facts all the time.
Yeah. And so my dream, what I thought was going to happen with Achievement Hunter, is we were going to make tutorial videos, our guides and stuff, which is what we used to do back in the day, like how to get achievements, the whole point of Achievement Hunter.
Yeah.
So I thought, a decade after we started, you would go to GameStop, pick up your game, pick up a Brady guide, and then pick up the Achievement Hunter DVD. that you would then take home and watch with you. And it'd be like, oh, here's how to get all the achievements. And we work with like Activision. Get like,
of course,
we'll get all the Call of Duty achievements first before the game's out. Put together like a DVD, and then you could buy that as like a tutorial DVD. And so that was the biggest I thought we'd ever get.
Yeah, because everybody have their little 4x3 TV over here with the built-in DVD player. They're able to watch on that screen while they play on this screen.
Yeah, and so obviously things changed. After doing it for a few years, we realized quickly is like, the achievement stuff went really well. It was a lot of fun at first, but then then Jeff and Gavin made a video where there's just them playing games, and then Michael and Jeff did some Saints Row stuff where it was just them playing through the game.
Yeah,
and very quickly it was like, oh, this stuff works pretty well, because I always thought, like, to me, a perfect internet video is about 3 minutes long. 3 to 5 minutes long is a perfect internet video, and most of our videos are about that length. And then we decided, like, we'll put out a 30-minute, like a Let's Play type video. I don't even know if we call it Let's Play initially. It was just like, gameplay. And people watched it. It's like, oh, okay. And then Minecraft ended up on the Xbox. And that was the thing, because we were solely Xbox people. And then so Minecraft ended up on Xbox, and it exploded from there. Yeah. And so we started doing these really long-form videos in Minecraft. And it was like, oh, crap, there's people watching this. And so
was there a push and pull internally of like, well, we're achievement hunter. We need to still do that. We need to still be chasing that.
A little bit, but to be honest, once we saw the numbers, it was like,
fuck that.
Yeah. It's like, it was also a lot more fun too, because like you could work on an achievement guide where it's like, okay, I have to play this game for 20 hours to get this one achievement.
Yeah.
And make a 5-minute video of it that gets maybe 100,000 views, and it's like, or we can spend immediately launch a game, load it, play it with 4 of us. Put together a video and put it out, and it's like, oh, and this does really well, like 250,000 views, 500,000 views. Like, okay, like this makes a lot more sense. And so, and it's also, we realized it was very quickly, it was like, going from achievement guides, which are very sort of targeted videos, to something like where it's just a Let's Play, where it's just a podcast with video games in the middle of it. It's like, oh yeah, this is a lot more fun to do, and the audience really got into it, and our personalities really came out a whole lot more, and we kind of never stopped doing that.
So for you, then, never stopped doing that. When you look back, are there the moments where you're like, this is different, this is bigger than I thought it was? Not even bigger than you thought it was going to be, because you thought it was just going to be guides. I get that. But I mean, like, do you have those moments, whether it be the live show, whether it be an RTX, whether it be something else, where you're like, holy fuck, like this we're on another level here?
I think, RTX, that was the big one. Like, I remember the very first RTX we did 10 years ago. RTX 10 is this summer, by the way. RTXevent.com. Buy your tickets now. Patreon.com/kindoffunny. Learn it from the best.
You can't get the tickets there, but I'll take your money.
So the first RTX. So the idea behind RTX 1 was we had 200 tickets available for sale. We were going to put it up, like there was a local arcade that we had rented out. We had rented out a theater, the Alamo Draft House, to show some stuff. Real small, low-key event. And there's video of it somewhere where I was filming Gus and Jeff when they like put the tickets on sale. It was like noon on whatever day. They put them on sale, and they're like, oh yeah, this is going really well. And then very quickly they all got quiet, and they're like, and then like, after about 10 minutes, they finally killed it. And we had sold 525 tickets in a matter of like 30 seconds, and it broke everything. And it's like, oh shit, we have to rework everything, because they weren't ready for it. And so we then got 3 Alamo theaters, had to move the event from the arcades, like a hotel. And it was like within 2 months, we had to redo all of the first RTX. And that was like, oh wow, there's an audience here. And then people were coming from Australia, people were coming from Europe, and I was like, oh, okay. And I remember the first time we like walked up on stage, the first night of RTX, and just this room full of people that was like going nuts, and it's like, wow, all right. Then the next year we did RTX at the convention center.
Before you even get there, was that the first time you guys had gathered the audience that way? I mean, because I think like for me even, right, like I remember doing Beyond and GameScoop for so many years, and you get the people writing in, but it's even IGN telling you at the time, totally different now, obviously. At the time, like podcasts are a waste of time. Like what and why, you know what I mean? Like you're wasting man hours. If there's 5 of you in there, that's 5 hours, let alone the editing. Yeah. Why wouldn't somebody go make a game or make a guide, write an article, do whatever? Yeah. And it wasn't until you started going to PAXs where it was like, holy shit, why are this many people coming to a panel? Well, there's a line out the door for us. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what it was too, is because we would do panels at PAX and whatnot, and like Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. And those always did crazy well. I remember being at the PAX East panel for, I think it was season 6 of Red vs. Blue. It was the first one Monty worked on. Okay. And there was a shot where it was like Red vs. Blue. The audience loved Red vs. Blue, but there was a shot where a warthog busted through a wall, and all of a sudden, like, it went from like head bobbing to full on animation. Yeah. And people lost their minds. Yeah. And then they had introduced like, oh, Monty Ellen's been working with us. And they brought Monty up on stage. I was in the audience. I wasn't even part of it yet. Like, I got lucky if I got to introduce the panels. Yeah. And just the audience reaction is like, holy shit, there's a lot of people out here like our stuff. And so Seeing that, and then seeing these fan groups like like RT, or there was a group up in Canada that was huge that Barbara used to run, and then Katie had the largest fan group outside, I think, North America. In Australia, she did oh my God, RT odds or whatever, Root Teeth. That's what it was, Root Teeth, which is great. And so like they had like 1,000 people down there. It's like these giant swaths of fans, and they were throwing like their own events.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like, well, why don't we do like an official event in Austin? And then we kind of took it on. And so seeing those communities build, I mean, that was really cool. And that's what Rooster Teeth's always been about that, like about building communities. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many people have come up to me like, oh yeah, I met my wife or I met my husband because of we had a shared passion for these videos, and like this baby exists because of Rooster Teeth. And it's like, that's amazing, and that's like the coolest stuff for me. And so and so. Just watching these communities build and grow, and then then we did RTX, and then now we've done Age Lives, and now we're touring and doing all this stuff. It's amazing.
Okay. We're going to keep talking about that and the growth, but of course we need to talk about the community, the kind of funny community. This, of course, is We Have Cool Friends. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, it comes up. It's one of our irregularly scheduled programming. This week you get 2. Who cares? It's great. You can get on podcast services, youtube.com/kindafunny, and, of course, roosterteeth.com. We need to thank our Patreon producers. Of course, if you go to patreon.com/kindafunny, you can get the show ad-free. You can get it early. You can do a bunch of stuff and support us and all this other jazz. I don't know if I actually get it early anymore. That doesn't make any sense. If we recorded early, Pete Hines is coming in early. That'll probably go up early, right? I don't know, whatever. Anyways, our Patreon producers are James Davis, David Mindtell, Mind Freak, Mohammed, Justin Toft, Al Tribesman. I think, is that the one they call Predator? Is Al Tribesman the Predator? Right? Yeah, okay. Drew Garnier Fruities, Blackjack, Jared Brown, Cassandra Ramirez, Ian Jacobs, Zachary Smith, Joseph Solar, Sean Fellows, Morgan Goranson, the Nanobiologist, Frank Furter, Jameson Shafransky, and Quaid, Start the Reactor, Burnett. Today we're sponsored by Honey and the Besties on Spotify, but I'll talk to you about that later. Back to you, Mr. Pattillo.
Okay.
Yeah. You talk about bringing Monty on, right?
Yeah.
And how or them bringing Monty on, and that changing RVB. For me, I have such a blessed position of really learning about Rooster Teeth right before I felt starts tumbling down the hill and becoming this Rooster Teeth that it is now, right? Because if I remember when we were at VidCon and we knew Ashley, of course, from IGN, and she was over there with this guy Bernie or whatever, and Bernie was talking to me. He's like, "Oh yeah, you should come on this thing we're doing called the Gauntlet Season 2." I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. And we walked away, and Tim flipped out. He's like, "You have no idea what a big deal that is. That's huge. It's gonna be." I'm like, "All right, cool, whatever." And so to go there and film the Gauntlet and meet Barb and meet Gavin and meet Monty and meet everybody, meet Meg Turney, like just hang out with everybody, and then go to the old office, which isn't, I know, the original office by any means, but
which office are you talking about?
I'm talking about the one with like the nice. You walked up and it said Rooster Teeth and the silver letters up here on this thing.
So that was.
It was the one right before you moved to you started taking over
studios.
When you started taking over studios, right? And so to go in there, and I remember Monty giving me a tour. And be like, "Yeah, this is my desk. This is where I animate everything for this place, and this is the bed I sleep on sometimes when it goes right along." And I'm trying to do this anime. I've been working on this for. I'm like, all right, that's rad. To see that in 2013, and then the last time when I came down and filmed last year, 2019, when we came down and filmed Hardcore Tabletop, when they were like, "Oh, do you want to go see the animation studio now?" I'm like, "Oh, sure, yeah." Is it one of the hangars? Like, "Oh, no, we got to get in a car."
It's off-site now. It's a different location.
We drove over there, and I mean, my jaw was on the floor of it. Was I think 200, 300 people spread out and they would be like, "This row is working on the Genlock. This row is working on the game. That row is doing whatever." And it was that thing of like, oh my God, this is what it's become.
Yeah, I mean, like when I came on, I was employee number 9. Like Monty started, so I came in as like part-time October 1st. Monty started full-time October 1st. And then Brandon, one of our older guys, he started back in March of that year. It was 2009. And so that year they hired 3 people, which is a big year for hiring for Rooster Teeth. Because I started, then my full-time started December 1st. And so it was 7, 8, and 9 of those employees. And that was 7 years into the company. And now I've been around for 10 years, and we hit a top at about 450.
Jesus
And so right around then is when it started like speeding up. Like once we were down, like that was the downtown office, which I don't think you ever saw.
No, I heard about it, I think. Yeah, when we were down there shooting, they were like, "Oh, we used to be right over here."
Yeah, it was right. Yeah, and that building is now gone. Its level is now a hotel. But yeah, we got it to about 15 people in that office, and then moved down to the 636, the old office down south where you got to go.
That's the one, yeah.
That's where we started ramping up. That's when broadcast became a thing. That's when like the RT podcast became like, it started there. Or, like the video portion started there, where we're literally initially it was just at a table, and it was all sitting around a table, and Gus did it all. And then we ended up hiring a broadcast producer, and we had to rent out another space down in that area.
Yeah.
And then you saw the original set, and like that's where that existed. Like the first Extra Lives took place there. I think the very first big one we did took place there. And then Jeff and I did one in like our office. Like the very first one we ever did was just Jeff and I in our Achievement Hunter office.
Yeah.
Then 2 years later we did the first big one, and then after that we moved to Austin Studios, and then it kind of became where it was. But yeah, that was when right around the time when Ruby kind of went into production. It was Carrie, Miles, and Monty sort of put that together. The three of them created that show. And then it just got bigger and bigger, and then it was just, you look up, all of a sudden we've got 70 employees. Like, wow, we never thought that. Because I remember we moved down to that south office, and I was like, oh, this is going to be big. We're going to be there for like 10 years. We'll never outgrow it. And then we outgrew it like in 2 years. And I was like, oh, shit, okay. And then we had to like get additional space, and then we worked with Austin Studios, and they were able to give us some hangars. And so we moved into this new location where a hangar, we did a build out. Like it was used before on the Dusk Till Dawn TV show.
Nice.
And so some of our offices there actually is a hotel set. So they just left it up, and we just turned it into offices, and built out the original Achievement Hunter office. Very quickly outgrew that too, so we got another half a building at
That's
that
the thing.
studios.
Every time I come there, you've taken over a new section of that thing.
Yeah. And so now like it's just gotten wild. I mean, we have two full hangars at the Austin Studios location. We have a bungalow, like a portable building, which is where RT Core is. Achievement Hunter has 3 offices and another bungalow or another studio, and then we have a whole offsite location now where like admin and animation is, and that's actually bigger than the studio stuff now. Like there's more employees over there now, but it's wild to see just how big it's gotten. And now I remember the first time, it was about 4 years ago, where I was like, oh shit, we're big. Is when we had a meeting where we called everyone over to the studios, and as I was walking up, some guy who I didn't recognize, some like younger guy I didn't recognize, he opened the door for me, and he goes, Mr. Pattillo, right through here. And I was like, what? And like, yeah, because like we've hired so many people from the community have gone on to work for us.
Totally,
I mean, animation, you need a lot of people working. So we have a lot of animators working for us, and a lot of them started as fans, and like they worked their way up to be working with us now. And so we have a large swath of people wearing like Achievement Hunter gear that just work for Rooster Teeth, and it's like, all right, this is interesting, and I never thought it would get like this. And so, and it's now like, walking around, like I love going to theme parks, and like every time I go to a theme park, I've been stopped by someone either wearing Achievement Hunter gear or just saying like they're a fan. And it's like, that's the coolest thing ever, That's it's so rewarding to see like all this work we put in, and just to see how it's grown, and see this audience, and like these people that have gone on to do other stuff, and like even people like Laserbeam. Freaking Laserbeam, my buddy down in Sydney, Lannon. He came on because he was just a Rooster Teeth fan. He liked Achievement Hunter, he liked Rooster Teeth. He was a executive producer on the first Laser Team movie, where he just donated money. And one of the perks was you got to visit either Achievement Hunter for a day, or like visit the RT podcast, or hang out with animation for a day. He went and visited Achievement Hunter for a day. We've got video of him in like the background of some of our videos. Yeah. And then he's like, oh, I can do this. And then he went home and started up a YouTube channel where he was playing Madden. And he was like this Australian dude playing Madden, and it just started getting bigger and bigger. And then, he started doing weird, goofy shit, and then started playing Fortnite. And now he's literally the largest YouTuber in all of Australia.
Yeah, I remember the first time I met him. I think it was Lewis, right, from RT or whatever, had brought him through for a VidCon. And he was so drunk, but he desperately wanted me to lend him my portable charger so he could charge his iPhone at the event. And I was like, cool, but that's my only charge cable. Like, I need that for tonight. So every like 15 minutes, we'd run into each other partying. I was like, cool, don't fucking... He's like, I'm not going to forget it, mate. I'm like, all right, whatever. And then, he started... I saw him tweet about like how big he was and this stuff. And I had to ask Andy because I thought it was a joke. And Andy's like, no, he's really that big. I was like, okay, sorry.
And so, but it's amazing. Even like there's the thing, Sea Nanners, right? Like Adam Montoya. So he won, like, I don't know if you know this, but back in the day, he used to enter a bunch of contests. That was his thing. He's like one of those people who just enter in 1,000 contests over the course of a month and hopefully win something. Yeah. He ended up winning a trip to Austin to visit the Rooster Teeth studios. Yeah. So he just showed up one day, and they were like, who are you? And he's like, oh, I won a contest. Like, oh yeah, I guess we remember that. And so he walked
checks out.
Yeah. And so they let him in. It was like, I think it was him and his girlfriend, and they walked around, and then he's like, oh yeah, I can, like, this is cool. I could do something like this. And he went home and started doing it and became Sea Nanners.
Dude, that's what it's all about.
It's so neat. And it's just, but It's crazy like how stuff like that happens. You don't even realize it. And
Sure. Oh yeah, it's crazy that you've been around long enough that not only are people that are fans of you working for you now,
Yeah.
there's people that you've inspired to go out there and do it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I am so not pop culture oriented, but what the girl who did the Bond song, Billie Eilish?
yeah.
She's like, it turned out in an interview or a tweet or something that she's a fan of Achievement Hunter.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. It's funny because like I'm not a big fan of Billie Eilish's music, which
I mean, whatever, music's music. It's different to everybody.
And it's like she's like the only person I've just openly talked shit about ever.
That's
and I'm like,
good.
and of course, it was like, Gavin's talking with her brother, and it's like, oh my God, like we're huge fans. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, of course. Like the one person I pick out of everyone to be like, oh, she's terrible. It's like, yep, of course she's a fan. So
yeah, of course.
So Billie Eilish, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I'm sure you're a great person. I watched your James Corden video where you were riding a cart. That was great. You seemed like a good person. Just not a fan of whisper singing.
That's fine, and that's okay. You know what I mean? It's when you make it personal, as Nick does with every fucking celebrity we bring up. And I'm like, Nick, there's a chance we're going to meet these people one day. Why are you saying these things? And Nick's just got a Nick, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a loaded question.
Okay.
Because I know even in our small, kind of funny way of being around 5 years, I know there's people who think we've already lost what we were when we started.
Yeah.
The question for you is, how do you? I assume you're still there, so I assume you're of the manner that you guys still have the connection you have with your audience, even though you've gotten so much bigger. How do you personally maintain that? How do you keep that going?
Well, I mean, the beautiful thing of Achievement Hunter was we always we kept our group to a size where you could always relate to someone in the group. That was the idea. It's like you could watch the six of us and be like, oh, I'm the loud one in my group. Oh, you probably like Michael. Like, oh, I'm the sort of like intellectual one. It's like, oh, you probably like Jeff. Like,
I love eating a lot of weird shit. Oh, you're Jeremy. All right,
exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. And so we've always had that kind of like you can relate to someone in our group, or either someone who's like, oh, I feel similar to this, or I make jokes roughly the same thing.
Yeah.
And so, we'll have, Michael and Gavin and like Jeremy, they're like big into Pokemon and Dragon Ball. Like I have no idea. They're speaking gibberish to me when they're talking about Dragon Ball and like Vegeta, sure. But then I could make a reference about Stripes or Ghostbusters and like people like, oh shit. Like I'll make these, these 1% jokes that like every now and then someone will tweet at me like, oh, I caught that. I'm like, yes. Yeah. Like that was for
I'm
you.
old enough to get this reference.
Exactly. And so we've been very careful about that. And that's why now we're bringing like Fiona, who's like much younger, and Alfredo, like these younger sort of people, and we're trying to keep it fresh. And so like now it's just like our audience stays roughly the same age, but there's still some people that kind of age with us too. And we've been very careful about kind of maintaining what we have. And we don't get too far away. Like we try new things, and we're very open about like, hey, we're going to try this. If it works, great. If not, okay, we just won't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And we're very reactive to the audience. We try to keep our thumb on the pulse of what's going on and sort of, keep doing what we're doing. But we're not afraid to try stuff new. And it's like, oh, that didn't work. Sucks.
Sure,
it's like,
yeah,
all right, move away from it. And so, and that's sort of the beauty of what we do, because the Achievement Hunter style is very kind of low tech, where it's like, we'll try stuff. Like literally almost all of our shots you see live action are done with cell phones. Like literally Gavin will pop up on his phone and start filming. It's like, okay, cool. And we'll just go from there. Like we don't have elaborate setups. There's no fancy cameras. And so people understand like that's the Achievement Hunter style. Like even we're doing hardcore mini golf coming up soon.
Oh, what's that now?
Yeah, and so it's that's going to be a lot of fun. We're filming that one pretty soon, and I literally had to talk to the camera guys. I'm like, I want this to look professional. I want this to look like PGA Tour style, but at the same time, you have to understand it's Achievement Hunter. So if it looks like crap, people will understand that it's like it's Achievement Hunter. Yeah, of course it's going to look like crap because it's those guys. And so it's like it's this weird balance of like we don't want it to look too polished because we're not trying to make like, we're not trying to make a movie that we put up on our channel. We're just making an Achievement Hunter show just on a different level. And so it's interesting, and our audience is very receptive to that. And we try not to get away. Like once we started getting larger, it wasn't like, oh, we've got to change up everything we're doing to play to this audience. Like, no, they came here because they like what we're doing. Why should we change that? And so we've kept it very similar over the last decade.
What I applaud you guys for, and I think one of the reasons RT as a whole has been able to continue on and get humongous but still have dedicated audiences like they have, right, is the idea that Achievement Hunter is its own thing, and RT Podcast is its own thing. And as you go down the animation, right, the games, you go down the line, and these things that are there have their own voice, their own style, and then are able to, even though they're in a larger thing, be small, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah. I mean, that's always the beauty of Rooster Teeth. It's like we have so many different legs of the company where it's like, hey, you might like the Rooster Teeth podcast. Why don't you give the Off Topic podcast a shot? Like, oh, you liked Off Topic. You should check out Achievement Hunter. Those guys are really funny. And it's like, oh, you like Achievement Hunter? There's this other group called Funhouse. Like, you should give them a shot too. And it's like, if you like one thing at Rooster Teeth, there's a good chance that's going to branch out into other things too.
Hit somewhere.
And it's like, oh, I'm a big fan of like, Achievement Hunter. Like Lindsay, she's she's really funny. Oh, we have this anime show called Ruby, and she's the main character in that show. And it's like it all sort of like cycles around where there's a little bit of Rooster Teeth DNA across everything we do, and that's always been the important thing. Like we're very careful not to just be like, we're just gonna try something radically different that has nothing to do with anything else.
Sure,
and so and the couple of times we've done that hasn't been as successful. So it's like, all right, yeah. So it's very important for us to keep that feel across everything.
What's it been like having new bosses, right? You guys got bought recently?
Yeah. We got bought by Full Screen about 5 years ago, and now like the Warner Brothers side of things is kind of come into play, and it's been interesting. I mean, I'll be honest, like it's a little, Papa Warner is what we say. So like, some of the back end stuff that like the audience never, deal with, like our budgeting and sort of like the way we like handle travel and things, stuff like that again,
all these weird little systems that are your day to day.
Even Andy today, I heard him complaining about something for like having to do designing stuff
for the store. Yeah,
and it's like I understand that. Like, that's gonna be different, but anytime that happens, whatever. As long as
for the record, Andy complains about everything. Okay. You know what I mean? He's just the worst.
Well, I mean that's why.
Am I wrong, Barrett? You know what I mean? Like simple stuff he complains about. You know what I mean?
I mean, we kicked him out of Austin. You know. But I mean, like, so that stuff's. I mean, that's like any negative side is stuff that the audience shouldn't ever see.
Of course.
But on the other hand, like we do stuff like Achieve is a line of shirts we're doing, and there's a line of clothing that we've been doing. It's like the Achievement Hunter kind of like fashion line, I guess, the brand.
Yeah.
That started with it's literally my beard. It was like the first Achieve shirt was
I remember
my
that.
beard.
Yeah, I remember that.
That said Achieve, and now it's become a whole fashion line. We did an Achieve Batman line, officially licensed Batman merchandise.
Dude, and this is what I'm talking about with you guys.
That's so awesome.
That's the thing I'm talking about with you guys, where I obviously know you and I'm abreast of the situation. I'm told things, but like when my weekly DC newsletter came through and I opened, I'm like, is that Barb?
Yeah.
Wait, that's all of them? Oh, they're all modeling this thing. Photos by Wes Ellis of these things of them wearing. I'm like, holy shit, that's awesome.
And stuff like that is like, holy shit. Like, how did we get to this point? And now I'm just starting to leverage the hell out of that.
Sure.
I'm like, hey, Warner Brothers, we have a deal with Six Flags, right? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And so now I'm like talking with Six Flags.
When are you getting on the set of Batman? When are you going to set the Batman?
Geez, well, we'll work on that. Okay. So, but I mean, stuff like that. Where like now we just did the Birds of Prey line. It's like, okay, and I mean, because it went really well with Batman stuff. And like, we want to work with you guys, and we're sort of like the kid brother to like the rest of the Warner Brother family now. And so, but we're showing it's like, hey, we have an audience, and we have a large community that's into the stuff that we're into, and we're into WB right now, and so it's like. All right. And so, that the idea we have this large playground to do some really, really cool stuff with, like, that's the most exciting part of what we're doing. And now even like I work on the charity stuff, and AT&T and Warner Brothers, like, there's our parent companies. And I'm like, hey, we have some ideas for some charity stuff. And like, they're being very receptive to it. Like, hey, we want to help you out. What can we do? So if it's something like, let's just spread the word. If AT&T can be like, hey, there's this small group in Austin raising money for a thing called Extra Life.
This small group.
Yeah. It's like, okay, but we have this backing of these large companies that, support what we're doing, or at least if we pitch them hard enough, they support what we're doing. And so I'm definitely taking advantage of that in a form that, we could never have done stuff like that before.
How did that all get started? Because you are the charity guy, right?
Yeah.
I know that in the same way I'm the Extra Life guy here, you're that back in Austin.
Well, I mean, that was Extra Life was a thing. So Extra Life started down in Houston, in Houston, Texas. And I remember reading, I think on Kotaku, about this charity thing called Extra Life. And it was like the second or third year it had been up and running. And Jeff and I, we had our office, just the two of us at Achievement Hunter at the time. I was like, oh, there's this charity thing where you play games for 24 hours. Would you be up for doing that just like on a weekend, like a Saturday to Sunday?
Yeah.
He's like, okay. And so we literally set a camera up, did a live stream on our YouTube channel, and it was like I think we raised like $20,000 that first year. It was like, holy crap, we did all this. But it was literally Jeff and I sitting on our chairs, and like my back was destroyed. It was horrible. And
slack-jawed, a lot of silence at times while you just played whatever you're doing.
But we had friends come in, like Monty came in, played some Ninja Gaiden for a bit. I was playing like DJ Hero. I remember that was the big thing at the time.
Yeah.
And
I don't know, it was DJ Hero the big thing at the time.
It was the coolest.
It was the thing.
But and so it was like we had a lot of fun doing that. And then I think 2 years passed, and then I sort of brought it back up again. I was like, we should do Extra Life again, because at this point we had our full broadcast set. And we had been doing it. I'm like, it'd be neat if we did this Extra Life thing again. And Katie had moved over. And so I was like, well, let's put this together. And so I kind of got a small group of people, and we put this together. I was like, we're going to do this 24-hour thing. And it was, so this is how small it was at the time. So we had our full-blown RT podcast set. The day before, they showed me on an iPad how to do switching of the cameras. Like, you could do it from an iPad. And then, and so it was me and Katie were there, and we had our lowly intern, this guy named Blaine Gibson, who was there.
Way out of shape, right?
Yeah. And he went to RTX. I think he was Barbara's guardian, like her PA at RTX. And then he got hired as an intern at Rooster Teeth. So it's the three of us literally starting this thing. No one else there. 8 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday. We kicked it off, and then we did about 10 minutes, like us goof around, the three of us, and then we realized like no one was responding. I was like, what's going on? And we realized we were private. Like we hadn't gone public at all yet. It's like, oh, okay. Then like Blaine went and pushed this public. It's like, oh, hey, what's up, everyone? I guess we just missed 10 minutes of this. Sorry.
Hey, man, it could have been an hour.
But then we raised like $160,000. I was like, holy shit. And then like all these people started coming in from the company, and it became like this sort of family gathering, like this party type thing. Like, because we had no plans. It was literally like, we're just going to stream for 24 hours, maybe play some games. And then like, Gavin and Ray showed up in their X-Ray and Vav costumes. Michael was eating Domino's, like they had like some dessert, and he was eating tons of those. And I was like, all right, this went really well. And we were the #1 most raised for a single team in all of Extra Life ever. Yeah. And just that one time, I was like, okay. And then Extra Life is like, hey, what can we do to help out? And then that became a yearly thing. And now we've done this, I think, 8 or 9 years in a row now. Raised over $6 million for Extra Life over the past 8 years. And then the local Austin hospital, Dell Children's Hospital, where all of our Extra Life money goes to, came to us and like, how can we help you? Like, what can we do? And we have a really great relationship with them, where a couple of years ago, we opened up the Rooster Teeth Healing Garden, which is part of the brand new mental health unit that we raised money for.
That's awesome.
Like, we made a pledge to them. We raised over $3 million to help build this new facility just for mental health patients. And then as part of that, there's a healing garden where the kids can go out and be outdoors in the sun. There's a basketball court, and it literally has, in words on the side of it, Rooster Teeth Healing Garden, which is, you can drive by and see it. And it's like the most rewarding thing, because like that's legacy stuff right there. Yeah. It's like, when I'm long gone, when Rooster Teeth's long gone, that will still be there helping kids. And so like that's the important thing. And so I've been very careful about any sort of like fame or any sort of like importance I get from doing what I do, being on the internet. I always try to drive it to something more important than me. And so helping kids and doing charity stuff, that's always been the most important thing I've done. And so I've gone out of my way to do that. And I'm working on a lot of other stuff. We're working on a lot of cool projects over the year. And I've become the director of charity at all Rooster Teeth, so all the charity stuff kind of feeds through me. And it's really, really awesome. And seeing people come up and like talking about like, they were directly impacted by stuff we've done, or like because of them, they started doing their own Extra Life things. And working with the Extra Life guys, it's fun because they go open up guilds, which are like groups around the country. And they say every time like they go like, hey, like, where did you find out about Extra Life? And they say half of the audience every time found out because of Rooster Teeth. And like that's so important to me. That's so cool. And so that's what I love most about doing
outside of the article and just like, oh, you already like video games, obviously. Is there a reason you felt motivated to do this? Like, is there a story behind it? Also, Barrett, can we refill Jack's water?
Thank you.
I've been this whole week I've been kicking around and I haven't done it yet. I got to figure out a good pitcher solution.
Yeah,
we need a pitcher of water for the table.
Get a Stein or something for the table.
Exactly.
Yeah, you talk a lot.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. I bring in 2 and I'm done by the.
Yeah, I have a liter bottle of water. I just suck down water. I mean, as a big guy, you just keep drinking it. And
I understand. I feel like water's pretty good, guys.
Keeps me from drinking sodas too.
Not our sponsor either. This is just a free plug for water.
H2O.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the charity stuff, honestly, it was kind of like, it just felt right, you know? Like, it never felt like, like, we never did it to get PR. Like, we never did it to, get attention. It was always just like, oh, yeah, like, for me, it's like, I don't give a shit about being famous. Like, I don't want to be, like, I'm not going to be on stage, presenting at the Academy Awards. I don't give a shit about that. But it's like, if I can take whatever attention goes towards me and deflect it to something more important, like saving the planet, like, climate change, or helping kids or helping animals, all of that stuff, like, that's so much more important than anything I've ever done. Thank you very much, man.
Get out of here with the peanut M&Ms, dude.
I mean, it's okay.
Nobody wants them. They're taking them. No, get out of here. They're disgusting. Gross. And now you're gonna have that nut caught in the back of your throat.
You're coughing up.
Exactly, right? Thanks for ruining the show, Barrett. Peanut M&Ms ruin everything. Big shock there. Didn't know that, huh, everybody?
But yeah, charity stuff. It's always been important, and we've raised a lot of money, and like that's always my thing. It's like, if you're out there, take care of each other, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Let's make this planet a better place than what we started with. Like, that's my sort of philosophy in life. Is like, I want to, like, whenever I leave this planet, I want it to be better because of something I've done.
Okay.
Whether or not anyone knows it was me, but just
that doesn't matter.
Yeah. But it's like, like a future generation. Like, if it's something's easier because of something I've done, it's like that's all I can ask for.
Do you think anymore about what the possible ceiling for Extra Life fundraising is? Because you've already done the thing where you raise more than $1 million.
Yeah, we've raised. I
mean, in one Extra Life. I'm not talking grand total. I'm talking in one Extra Life.
Yeah, the last 3 years we've broken $1 million.
Yeah,
and this last year is actually the first time ever we actually raised a little less than the year before. Still raised over $1 million.
Sure,
and that's a good plateau. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's all, raising $1 million is amazing, and it's like, and it really doesn't matter if we raise $50,000. Still, that's $50,000. That's helping people. And so for me, it's not about like trying to achieve a high score every year, but it's like, like we're doing what we do because we love it. It's not because we're trying to like no one walked away from the end of last year like, oh my God, what happened? How is this? And it's like, no, we love it and we love doing it and we love all the support and the love from the community. That's the important side of things. Like the money is fantastic. Like helping other people, that's more important than anything else. So,
what's your dream for production of it? Because I mean, every year the set is crazier and crazier.
Yeah,
there's more going on.
Man, so this year we supported Retro Replay, Nolan North and Troy Baker.
Never heard of it. Never heard of them or that.
Those guys, they have a buddy named Liam McIntyre who's Australian, and he reached out to those guys saying like, hey, Australia's on fire right now. Can we do something to help? And so they worked with him and they put together this stream where it's just like they brought in a lot of friends. They worked it down in the Funhouse studio, that Arizona Circle down in LA, and they put together the stream. And Katie and I caught wind of it, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to come out and just kind of like support however you can?" So Katie and I went and just hung out the whole time. We ended up being on camera for about 15 minutes, but it was like we were there for 6 hours.
Hey.
And they were just rotating people through, and we were sitting there. It's like, holy shit, because it was like, Joel McHale was there, and like Seth Green was there, and like all of these voice artists were there, like half of Overwatch was there, and like Nolan and Troy were there, obviously, and it's just like, man, the cool thing about that was it was in LA, so it's like, hey, could you come down and spare out like an hour and a half to come and hang out with us? And so many people did that, and so. When we do Extra Life down in Austin, we always try to get people to come down. It's so much trickier to be like, hey, fly out to Austin.
Yeah, can you fly here for 4 hours of the flight? Get here, go do that thing.
Well, like this year we had Xavier Woods come down. That dude is awesome. I don't know if you've ever met him before.
I've never met him. Really, I hear he's actually kind of a crooked commissioner who screws people over. He doesn't cut good promos.
No, not at all. No. I mean, he's a really, really nice guy.
I also hear that like if he hears there's a car wash opening, he'll go to that too. Like he's that desperate to be on camera and be in photos.
So, but the idea was like, holy crap, we had some people come down. It's like, oh, it was a lot of fun. And then seeing this Retro Replay stream was like, oh, and Nolan and Troy were like, yeah, if you guys ever want to do anything in LA, let us know. And now I'm like, okay. And so now we're kicking around the ideas of like maybe doing something in LA as well as something in Austin. So we'll see how that goes.
Very cool.
We actually we've also kicked out the idea of like maybe if we do well enough sometime we'll do like a 24-hour stream and then tack on like another 6 hours. So like maybe do a 30-hour stream, but. There's some ideas. Like it's always we try to grow and try to change it. Yeah. And like my dream was to have like the Jerry Lewis telethon style thing. Like
and
walk around.
I see that when I tune in.
And so we've tried reworking things. Like this last year we sort of set up a desk like a control center thing, and that kind of worked. Like the way we always try new stuff. And it's like last year there's a couple of things we're going to change for this year. And like the idea, I think the audience likes seeing kind of like. They like seeing that it's like a party, and the last year we did it, we set it more as like a show almost, where it's like, hey, here's the next bit, and it's like we had kind of cut away, and then we cut back, and it's like set up for the next thing, and it's like they like seeing it sort of like a big community thing. So we're gonna change stuff up a little bit, but we always learn, and that's sort of the beauty of Extra Life too, specifically Extra Life, is that we get to try stuff that we would never do in any other situation. But it's like, hell, we're doing this for 24 hours. Let's throw stuff against the wall, see if it sticks. Yeah. And so we've done some pretty wild things there, and it's like, we'll try it. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, as long as we can shoot paintballs at Gavin and Michael.
Of course, I think they'll always be up for that, right?
But yeah, the charity stuff that's always going to be my big focus at Rooster Teeth. That and the live show stuff, like that was. I remember the Achievement Hunter Live started as Let's Play Live. And that actually began because of RTX. It began because of a photo that Katie took, my wife took at RTX. We played GTA up on stage, and it was the Achievement Hunter guys playing, like 6 of us playing GTA on stage. And right before we went out, Katie took a photo of this crowd, and it was like 4,000 people on their feet who came there just to watch us play GTA. Yeah. And then we went out, had an amazing time. It was a lot of fun. If you ever see us in our bug suits, these big red outfits, that was that one. And I walked up on stage and I'm like, holy shit, like all these people are screaming at us. It's like, who gets to do this in front of an audience? And I was like, Rockstar's going to do this. And I'm like, well, what do rock stars do that we don't do? It's like, drugs. Well, they tour. We do plenty of drugs. Okay. But they tour. And it's like, they play shows. And I'm like, why don't we do that? And so that was sort of the idea behind the first Let's Play Live. It was like, why don't we do a stage show where we're doing video game stuff up on stage? And at that time, like, no one had really done that. Sure. I mean, and so it was like, holy shit, all right, let's give it a shot. And so we played the Austin City Limits Theater, the Moody Theater in Austin, and that was a lot of work. We actually ended up making a documentary.
Yeah, it's really, really well done. Yeah.
Great documentary. It's one of my best friends made a documentary about me, which was really strange. But that went off, and it was just that took a couple years out of my life. But we got it put together, and I was like, holy shit, that was a lot of fun.
I was gonna say, what has the learning curve on that been like? Of going from, man, rock stars do this, to doing it, to having it, to going international, coming like there's been so many iterations of you doing live events.
Yeah. Well, I think with that was, the first Let's Play Live was a spectacle. I mean, we spent a lot of money on that. And to be honest, that was Full Screen acquired us like in November of that year. And then we did the first Let's Play Live in February. So we threw a lot of money at that, honestly, to impress Full Screen.
Okay.
Because they had never seen anything like that. They're like, okay, what is this Rooster Teeth group? Who are these Achievement Hunter guys?
So was that just sunk cost? You didn't make that back?
We lost a lot of money on that first show.
Lost leader, as they say, right?
Yeah. And honestly, it was kind of like we lost a good chunk of money on that. And it was like, well, that was fun. We'll never do that again.
Yeah.
And then it kind of popped up again. I was like, hey, we could do this again. It's like, okay. And then so the idea is kind of like paring it back. Like, what did the audience like? Like, we don't really necessarily need all this big stuff. And let's start shrinking it down. And now we've got it to the point where we can do a Let's Play Live or an Achievement Hunter Live, which is gone. Let's Play Live was like, get everyone involved. So like you came out to Chicago with us. You did, I think you were in LA too with us. And so it was like bringing out all these people. It's like, all right, so maybe let's pare it down into like a smaller group. It's like, okay, we'll do just Achievement Hunter. And then we'll have friends come in. Like when we're in San Francisco, we'll have you guys here. Of course. And it's like, what can we do with like 8 people? And before we had like 6 PCs, 6 Xboxes. We've literally pared it down to 1 Switch.
Smart.
So we literally
just
have
like every time we do a panel with you guys where it's like, you guys want to play games? Yeah, we're playing. It's Nintendo Power Hour. We're just bringing a Switch. We're not going to troubleshoot. We're not going to do
And
this.
so we pared the show down to like what we know works. And it's like the audience we know wants to see us do shenanigans on stage that you can't normally see. Like when we're sitting at our desk, that's one thing is playing a game. But it's like, let's do shit like where we're interacting with each other and like screaming at each other and throwing things. Like stuff that doesn't make sense to shoot.
Yeah, if you've never seen it, I think my favorite one was Surgeon Simulator, where you put Michael and Gav on a stretcher and they got wheeled through the audience while this was happening.
Yeah, they were playing. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and so we do that, and so now we've literally got Achievement Hunter Live down to a Nintendo Switch and like 8 microphones.
Yeah,
and a projector, obviously.
Of course.
But yeah, and I think it's a great show, and like because you get to see more of the people you're there to see. The interactions are great. We've done enough of them now where we're comfortable on stage, do goofy stuff. So we do everything from like Alfredo and Trevor do like improv comedy with Jeremy and Ryan, and then we've got music stuff always. So now we just did the Achievement Hunter musical, and so now obviously stuff like that's going to be involved with what we're doing, and it's just a lot of fun to do. I mean, that's like I love being the ringleader of that show. Like I've always kind of been the host of that show, kind of the connective tissue between all the different bits, and that's definitely my baby. Like that was my creative idea, and like came up with it and pitched it, and seeing that grow, and now we're doing 3 shows this year right now. We're doing the one in RTX in Austin over July 4th weekend, and then we've got other stuff planned in the horizon. It's like, and these do well enough, and they're cheaper enough now that we can do more of them and go to locations that we never would have gone before. And so it's like my dream when we started doing Let's Play Lives and Achievement Hunter Lives was I wanted to play Orlando at the Hard Rock.
Hell yeah.
And I wanted to play somewhere in Vegas. And so we got to do a Hard Rock in Orlando, which was like one of those surreal things.
Yeah.
So now we just got to play Vegas. And then I'm like, all right, I'm set. I'm good.
Then you're done. You can hang it all up. Just go behind the scenes.
And maybe the O2 in London. Like that would be pretty
all right.
That'd be pretty sweet. Yeah. And actually, it's funny. Austin has got an MLS team, or we're getting an MLS team, soccer team.
Yeah.
And they're Austin-based team. And I was like, hey, we're an Austin-based company. They're gonna have a big old jumbotron. It's like maybe we could do something there. And so we're talking to them now about what we can do possibly. So
you bring up an interesting point that I was gonna double back to eventually, but here we are. Do you feel that Rooster Teeth explosive growth has been in line with Austin's? Because it's the same thing I feel where I went there in 2013 and it was like, man, this is a cool city. And I remember then everybody like, oh yeah, and the jig's up. People are moving from LA. They're moving from San Francisco. It's this whole thing. We have this thing called the Alamo. There's only 2 of them. They're like, oh, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
The Draft House, not the Alamo. Draft Alamo,
we have
Draft
one
House.
Alamo,
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, all right, yeah, whatever. And then I feel like now every time I go there, it is 45 to an hour from the airport, which is ridiculous, but it's because the highway has not been expanded and because
they're
of this,
working on it.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never thought of that, but yeah, that could. I mean,
I feel like you guys have been growing at the exact same rate.
Yeah, it seems like there is a parallel there. Yeah, I mean, the Austin. I'm born and raised in Austin, so I've watched it change from like very kind of low, calm music city to we had a big tech boom in the '90s, then a big film boom in like the early 2000s. Then all of that went away because the government decided to pull funding for it for.
Smart move. Why not?
Yeah, and so Rodriguez pulled all his shit out of there. He's in like New Mexico now, and so anyway, but yeah, so yeah, we have grown. I mean, I never really thought it that way, but yeah, it totally makes sense. I mean, Rooster Teeth's been around for 17 years, so since 2003 or 4 is when we started, and yeah, and that was right around the time kind of like the internet boom sort of happened, and like definitely Austin is a hub of that. I mean, Google Fiber ended up coming to Austin. Like Google has a large hub there. Verbo is based out of Austin. Indeed is down there. There's a lot of tech companies in Austin, and so yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. I never really put it like that, but yeah.
That's what you do. Outsider, Greg Miller, journalist looking in. You talk about the film boom you guys had.
Yeah.
Is that one of the reasons you went the way you went with Ain't It Cool News and doing all that stuff? Like, what is your origin story? Like, what did you want to do in high school?
So when I was in high school, I wanted to make games. That was my thing.
Nice.
I was going to be a computer programmer. So I took computer programming classes, like some of the first ones you could take when in my school. And then my senior year, I took a media class and I was editing like stuff for school. And I was like, oh, like editing film. I was like, this is a lot of fun. I really, really like this a lot. And I'd always loved movies and stuff. I was like, damn, okay, maybe I want to do this. And so I changed my major from computer science over to radio, television, film, like literally 2 weeks before I applied to UT. And then I went to UT and it was like, I just took film classes. And then my buddies, so 4 of my friends, we made a little short film together, a little digital 8 camera. And I was the only one who could figure out how to plug the camera into a computer and get the footage off. And so I became the editor. And so I was the editor. And then I fell in love with editing. And I was like, oh my God. And I loved that. And I took all the editing classes I could. Like I took an intro to editing class that I was doing like final projects the first week of class because I knew what I was doing. And I just loved it. And then I love video games. And so my first, like right when I was graduating, a buddy of mine was working for a video game company called Aspire Media in Austin. Sure. And they had just lost their video editor. And he's like, hey, do you want to, come apply for this job? And it was cutting trailers for video games they were working on. And I ended up getting that job, and that was I worked there for about 3 years, literally taking video game footage, cutting it together, and putting it on the internet. And when I was at UT, I ended up going to a film club thing, and Harry Knowles, who ran Ain't It Cool News. Ain't It Cool News is a movie like reviews rumor website back in the day, the biggest one.
Yeah, are they still around? I don't even know.
Kind of.
Yeah. Back in the day, though, I remember going there all the time because that's where they were having all the scoops. They had all the things. I went to an early screening of this, that, the other superhero movie, or Superman Returns, or whatever.
Harry knew all these nerdy guys, and so like Jon Favreau came out for a bunch of his movies. Like when he was making Iron Man, that was a big deal. Like no one else gave a shit, but it was like that we made a big deal about it. But I met Harry at this thing, and he's like, oh, if you ever see any movies sitting there, just write them up and send them to me, or like write up a review, send it to me. And I ended up bumping into him at South by one year, and he's like, oh yeah, whatever you see, just write it up and send it. I ended up posting like 8 stories during South by Southwest, and then started doing that a couple years, and then made friends with another writer on the site named Quint, this guy Eric Vespi, and then he introduced me to his buddy Flash, Aaron, and so Aaron was actually friends with all the Red versus Blue guys, and so he would throw a poker game every now and then, and I'd been writing for Ain't It Cool for a couple of years, and I ended up meeting Bernie and Joel at a poker game, and Bernie took like an $80 pot from me, this son of a bitch, but
never forget.
Yeah, well, I was like a broke ass college kid, and he was a guy living in like the fancy part of Austin, and he took all his money from me. But anyway,
and he laughed. He did that Bernie laugh too at your misfortune.
Oh no, it was a thing where like I had like 2 pair, and he had like he's like, oh, I only got a pair of 6s with a 6 kicker, and I was like, you son of a, and I had to walk away from the table for a bit. Anyway, so I met those guys, and then just kind of became buddies with them through this poker game. And then they were like, when we're not doing Red versus Blue, we're off season, because all they were doing at the time was Red versus Blue. Yeah, and then some commercial work stuff. But they're like, when we're off season, we need content for the sites. Would you be interested in writing for us? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so I pitched like 8 ideas to Rooster Teeth, and it was Matt, Gus, Bernie, and Jeff, I think, were there, and they ended up buying like 5 of these ideas. And so I started writing this stuff and just writing some things, doing some like contests and things. And one of the things I pitched was a show called Forced Enjoyment. And it was a show where Jeff specifically would find shit games for me and make me do something in a game that I would otherwise never do. So it was like, get an achievement in Dead or Alive beach volleyball, which takes like 40 hours. And so like I would film some of it and then like put together these videos just like me just complaining. And then like I did like the Aragon game. I perfected the Aragon game, which is a horrible, horrible game. And just stuff like that. It was just like being miserable, and Jeff forced me to just. And so Jeff and I became pretty good buddies. Yeah. And then one day he's like, "Hey, let's grab a beer." And so he took me to this pizza joint, and he's like, "So I have this idea for this site. There's like Game Facts, but Rooster Teeth personality." Yeah. And then 3 months after that dinner, we had Achievement Hunter off the ground, and that was 12 years ago. And so yeah. And then for a while, like I ended up leaving Austin to go out to LA. Like I had some stuff happen, and so I left Austin, and then made some stuff of my own. And Jeff's like, "Hey, let's get you back in Austin." So I came back, and then yeah.
How long were you gone?
About 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I had something stolen from me that was Rooster Teeth property, and so it landed on me, and it was my responsibility.
Holy shit! I never heard this story.
Yeah, it's
wait. So is this like a revenge mission? Did you go back to get it?
No. It was I had a dev kit in my car, and my car got broken into, and someone grabbed it, and so there were 2 games on there, one of which one of the companies like, oh, do you want to send another one? And the other one's like, we're going to reach out to our lawyers. And I was like,
holy fuck.
Yeah, and at the time I wasn't full-time with Rooster Teeth or anything, and it was my responsibility, and so I pretty much was like, well, done with that. And so that was a lot of fun, and so I left and went out to LA to go work in the film industry, and worked on a couple softcore pornos.
Nice.
Yeah. And so that pops up every now and then.
I like to play games 3 or something.
Yeah, it was Bikini Frankenstein was the fun one.
Okay.
But yeah, and so and then I worked on some horror movies, but I was still doing video game stuff on the side. And so after things had kind of calmed down, like nothing ever leaked out of that. It never got out. And then Jeff's like, hey, I'm talking to the guys, see if we can get you back down. And so I came back out, started doing some more help, and then things kind of subsided from that. It still, it still sucks. I mean, it was definitely like, well, I just killed Rooster Teeth. Way to go, Jack. And, but then came back.
I've never been in that situation, but I've had plenty of industry friends be there.
Yeah.
Where, the bag we got pickpocketed at this. There was a DS in it. It had this. Now it's like, oh my God. Like, it spirals out of control.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And so thankfully nothing ever happened with it. And, but yeah, it was definitely a lot of stress happened through that. And so a lot of like Gavin tells me stories about like literally dumpster diving with Jeff trying to find this thing like in sketchy parts of Austin. And, and so that was pretty shitty. And I felt super bad about that.
Of course. And that's the thing, right? Because it's fucked on so many different fronts.
Yeah.
Because it's, okay, cool. Like, I shouldn't have left in my car, I guess. But they also violated my personal space. And did
but it's like I'm still responsible for it. And so, I mean, I take full responsibility. I'm not trying to, No. So, but I ended up, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to exile myself out to L.A. And went out there, lived there for a bit, and then Jeff's like, hey, it seems to be going okay. And like I was doing this other video game stuff, and he's like, yeah, well, like, can you do that for us again? I was like, okay. And came back out and it went pretty well. And then after about 3 months of doing some work down there, they brought me on full time. And so and I've been there ever since. I've been there over a decade. I'm now the 5th most senior employee at Rooster Teeth, which is pretty surreal.
Yeah, I bet.
And so it's weird looking around. It's like all these damn kids. But
and I was gonna say, what is that part of it like? Not the these damn kids get off my porch, but more the fact of like, you are like the old man of Achievement Hunter, right?
Yeah,
Jeff is still part of it, obviously, but even him, he's doing other things in the company now, and obviously Bernie stepping away from Rooster Teeth podcast and like seeing it change all these ways, like. Yeah. I don't even know if there's a question to that other than like, do you sit there and go, wow, things are different? Or you're like, well, fuck, we got Alfredo, we got to go do this and we're doing that. And it's like, you don't have time to worry about it.
I mean, it's sort of my role over the years has changed. And I get that. And it's like, and I'm honestly now, like, if you watch the site, like I'm slowly taking myself out of day-to-day Achievement Hunter content because I think the audience would rather see Alfredo in content or Fiona in content. Like we need to bring up these younger people that relate to the audience more.
Voices, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still going to be in Minecraft. I'm still going to be in stuff like day-to-day, but I'm sort of doing what Jeff had been doing the last couple of years, where he had slowly been trying to incorporate more people. And like Jeff, I mean, Jeff was always the flag bearer for like, let's do bigger projects. Like let's do this hardcore tabletop game. Let's do Achievement Hunter. Let's do more Achievement Hunter lives. And so I'm sort of stepping into that role, where I'm trying to be like, what can we do with the Achievement Hunter brand? What can we do with this group of people that no one's ever done before? It's something unique and really, really cool. And so that's always my goal now. It's like, what can I do with this audio, like this group of super talented people? How can I take this and do something unique with it? And so I'm thinking more on that level than I am like, let's play the new Sonic game. It's like, no, okay, let's do some fun stuff. So that's my goal. It's like, I've been around long enough now. Like I have more fun doing Achievement Hunter lives than anything else. Like I love playing I love playing to crowds. I love being on stage. And I know the guys love it too. And I'm going to be the one to be like, all right, I'm going to push for these. I'm going to make it happen. And so that's definitely become more of my role within Achievement Hunter specifically. Okay. So,
well, I want to talk about Katie. But first, I want to talk about our sponsors. Ladies and gentlemen, today's We Have Cool Friends is brought to you by Honey. Online shopping is supposed to be easy. So why is it so hard to find coupon codes that actually work? Thanks to Honey, it doesn't have to be. Honey is the free online shopping tool that saves you money online. Honey automatically finds the best promo codes and applies them to your cart, which makes online shopping finally feel as easy as it's supposed to be. Imagine you're shopping at one of your favorite sites, Target, Best Buy, Sephora, etc. When you check out, this little box drops down, and all you have to do is click Apply Coupons. Wait a few seconds, and it will scan every promo code on the internet, and you watch the prices drop. Years ago now, I don't even remember, we had a Honey sponsorship, and Tim said I had to do it, and I did it, and I use it to this day. Still do. Got a new computer, and I wasn't logged in, so I had to log back in. It's still, you can do it without logging in, but I think you get more if you do log in, and it's amazing, and it is great, and it scans everything, and I use it on everything because it reminds you too. The little Honey coin comes down and dances, and it's like, hey, Save money, idiot. And I'm like, all right, I'm a moron if I don't do this. Right, Barrett?
I always imagine him like, save money.
Exactly. That's the kind of voice I give him too. Yeah, exactly. You wait a few seconds, like I said, it does it all for you. Honey has found over 18 million members, over $2 billion in savings. Did you know Honey supports over 30,000 stores online? They're adding more every day. That's why it has 100,000 plus 5-star reviews on Google Chrome Store. Not using Honey is literally passing up free money, so don't do that. It's free to use and installs in just 2 clicks. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/morning. That's joinhoney.com/morning. Our next sponsor is the Besties over on Spotify. Hey, listeners, we know you love all things video games, so we want to tell you about the Spotify original podcast called The Besties. Every Friday, the creators of the Adventure Zone, Justin and Griffin McElroy, they are joined by their 2 best friends and hardened video game reporters, Rush Frustick and Chris Plant, to go deep on a new single video game. If you've been a fan of Polygon, then you know these guys. They co-founded it. Plus, if you know Orioration, you know Justin from that, a longtime supporter of that. It's a bit creepy, and we won't mention what he used to do in an ad, but that's why there's the McElroy moment where I mispronounce his name, McElroy, and he does the thing, and I dip the cookie. But they're good people. Go support them is what I'm saying. The Besties cover all major moments in video games in 2020, from the new console launches to Cyberpunk 2077 and beyond. And at the end of the year, they do a complete showdown pitting the top games of the year against one another to get to the top game of the year. It's pretty epic. But the Besties can't do it without their fans who write in each and every week with all sorts of goofy suggestions. It's like a book club for video games. You can find the Besties on Spotify, which also has your favorite podcasts, including this one, like, subscribe, share, and music, all for free. Listen to the Besties for free, only on Spotify. Barrett, can me and Jack have more water?
Ooh.
And then I want you to go to Amazon and look for a nice pitcher. You know what I mean? Why give me that frown face?
Use Honey to get a
yeah,
discount.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Get that Honey Gold.
What's the face for?
I'm scared of doing things through Amazon.
Why?
I don't know. Kevin usually orders things. I feel dirty
that's
ordering.
Fair. That's fair. Well, I mean, remember, Kevin doesn't log out anything, so you can just do it and then ship it to Paula. She won't know what's happening. Speaking of Paula, significant others, that was the reference.
Nice.
You've been mentioning this Katie woman for quite some time. Talk to me about this. This is your wife.
This is my wife, my beautiful, beautiful better half.
How long have you been married?
We've been married 6 years now.
Wow.
We got married on 11/12/13, November 12th. 2013.
So you wouldn't forget it ever.
It makes it pretty easy.
Yeah, I got married first.
But she's Australian, so for her it is 12, 11, 13.
Yeah, that doesn't help her at all. That's
it's all ruined. Yeah, no, she's the most important person in my life.
And you mentioned she was running a Rooster Teeth fan group, right?
Yeah.
Is that how you met? Is it through the site, I guess?
She was working for our distributor down in Australia. So we had a group and we had a group called the Hanabi. And so she worked with them, and she was working with, she created the fan group down there.
Okay.
And so I knew her through that, and so we just became buddies through that, and so we were just friends, and and she was just a super cool person, really, really friendly, real nice. And actually, the very first RTX is where we met in person. I was like, oh, cool. And so
at that point, were you already thinking romantically, or was this just a long distance, professional-ish
she's on the other side of the planet. How would that
how
ever
would this
happen?
possibly work?
That would be impossible.
Impossible.
And so so we were just friends, and I had a girlfriend at the time, she had a boyfriend at the time, and then we just kept in touch. And then at one point I ended up breaking up and dating a new girl, and she ended up getting with somebody else, and then we both kind of ended up being in kind of crappy relationships and kind of helped each other through that. And so and so at one point it was kind of like we ended up both being single at the same time, and I was like, oh hey, you seem like a cool person, I like you, and she liked me, and I was like, all right. And so I ended up going to Australia for an event, and I was like, well, let's see if this could work. And immediately I was like, wow, this was really, really nice. And that's where I got my first tattoo. I got my first tattoo, and this one here, that was when we officially got together.
Okay.
And so
she was the missing piece.
She was. And then I ended up going back to the States, and then I came back to Australia for something else, and I was like, wow. And then I got back, and literally it was 2 weeks later, I flew her out. I'm like, I can't, you need to be over here. And so I flew her out, and then she went back. Then I went back to Australia again.
God,
and then
this must have been great for your frequent flying.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. And then, but it was a couple back and forth, and then finally, she came over, and I was like, you can't leave again. And so I proposed to her, and so
wow, how quick?
I think we officially started dating maybe January, February, somewhere like that, and then by November of that year we were married.
Yep.
And so and so it was kind of fast and sort of in the long run, but it's
you're preaching the choir. I remember Jen and I went on our first date in July and got filed for marriage stuff in October. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Because it is that lame thing of when you know.
Yeah, I remember the thing for me where internally I was like, wow, that's unique. Is I was in Australia and I was leaving, and we were both at the airport. She was getting on a flight to go back to Sydney, and I was going back to the States.
Yeah.
And she got on her plane first, and I was waving, and I was just saying bye. And when I lost her, I couldn't see her anymore, I just started crying.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, what's going on? What is happening? Like, it wasn't like me thinking about it. So all of a sudden I started tearing up and I was like, this has never happened before. And I was like, there's something unique about that. And so
exact same thing was with me and Jen, where like when I put her in a cab after like she had been out here for the first time when we were dating or whatever, and she left, and I mean like our first dates, burst into tears, and I was like, what the fuck?
It's kind of like your body's like, oh wow, okay, I can't live without this. person.
Exactly,
and
right.
So, and then she came back over, and then we adopted a dog, and she left, and I had this stupid dog, and so that's Emma, and we've had her now for 6 years. So we've had Emma just a little bit longer. We've been married, so she's actually just turned 7. Actually, or she'll be turning 7 in March. I've always been a cat person, so the fact I got a dog for her and then she left, and then it was funny because we would FaceTime and like Skype and stuff, and so I would go to work and it'd be like almost nighttime for her, so I just leave the laptop open, point at the dog, and like one time she got Emma to sit from like from Sydney, which is kind of cool. And so anyway, but it's been fantastic, and she's definitely my partner in crime. So she's partially part of the reason why we're doing Extra Life so much. Like, she sort of inspired me to do more for positive good for the planet.
That's right.
And so all the charity stuff, she's been right there with me and helping out and kicking ass. And so now she sells candles, which is great. She's doing her own. She's selling her own. She started up her own company because she just liked making candles, and so she started up her own company, and she's paying for her college with her company, which is awesome. And so she's in school right now. She went to a community college, transferred to the University of Texas, and she's just kicking all kinds of ass. And so
she's a good one. I like her.
Pretty badass, man. Pretty badass. I've very much swung above my average there for her. So
Now we've talked about one of your loves, Katie.
Yes.
Your other true love is Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters.
Where are we at with Afterlife? How are you feeling?
Man, I am so freaking excited for Afterlife. That trailer came out, and it set such a perfect tone.
Right.
Like, right back. Like it's funny because you and me, like, when 2016 was coming out, when the Paul Feig Ghostbusters was coming out, you were very like, okay, I support this. I'm on the ball for this movie.
I'm giving it a chance.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Let's go.
And before the movie, I was like, oh, fuck this. This is not good. I'm not excited for this, whatever. Then the movie came out, and we swapped.
Yeah.
Where you're very like, fuck that movie. And I'm very much like, oh, I actually kind of enjoyed it. I actually had a pretty good time with it.
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of interesting. But so Ghostbusters 1 and 2, obviously very important. Like, the original Ghostbusters, like, came out, 85? 84.
Yeah.
And so, like, that movie and, like, Stripes and
Bill Murray and Harold Ramis' career, right?
Blues
that whole
Brothers,
thing.
Like, that was, like, my dad and I, like, we watched all those movies together.
Me too.
And so, like, I was raised on that style of comedy, like, watching the old, like, 70s episodes of SNL, like Chevy Chase and all that. And so Ghostbusters is huge for me. And so I was just excited to see more of the world and kind of like Ghostbusters now. And it's like, oh, wow, they still exist. And then, there's a lot of stuff I have to overlook to enjoy.
We're talking 2016?
2016. But now, coming back, like, something about that initial teaser where it's just the Ecto-1, like, all run down. And it's like, okay, that's just like nostalgia hits hard. And then,
that's the thing about it. Like, what I love about it, is the same effects, is the same car or whatever, but it is also like what I've never been able to truly wrap my head around. Because even when we were getting to Ghostbusters, the video game, or Ghostbusters 2016, or like before 2016, my problem had always been, when you're out at a bar talking movies, I'm like, nah, I hate all this remake crap, because you know what's going to happen. They're going to remake Ghostbusters, and they're going to get it wrong because they think Ghostbusters is the ghosts and the effects when it's not, right? And so that was even 2016.
Well,
Melissa McCarthy getting thrown up and down in the back alley and shit, and I was like, ugh.
Well, that was the thing, like the 2016 Ghostbusters, my issue with it was they sold it as a comedy first and then sci-fi. Well, if you go back and watch the original one, it's very much a sci-fi movie with comedic elements.
That happens to be funny.
Egon doesn't crack any jokes in that movie. Like, he doesn't say anything funny. Like, Dan Aykroyd, like, he doesn't really make any straight up jokes. Venkman's the only one who's cracking wise. And then it's like, even like Ernie Hudson, he's very much the everyman. Like, he's kind of miserable there. But it's like, they make it work. They're a team. And then whereas like 2016, everyone's goofy and funny and kind of like,
everyone's improving.
Exactly. And it's just like, no, it's not. That's not what Ghostbusters is. And that was my biggest issue with it.
And what I'd always struggled with was like, all right, well, if you don't want a remake of Ghostbusters, like, or even if you did, what would your Ghostbusters movie be, Greg? And I was always like, I don't know, because for me, why I love Ghostbusters 1 and Ghostbusters 2, right, is the idea that they are just sanitation workers. Like, this is just their job, and then it sometimes escalates to it. So, like, even the ongoing comic books where I love comics, I've never been able to get into them just because I'm not that interested in what new threat chase storyline. I would love to just have them be fucking going around busting ghosts, and that's the whole thing, right? Like, what their inner relationships are. But that's not what a movie would be. And so, like, it's always so fucked up to do. And then to get Afterlife, and hear the setup for Afterlife, right? Of like, all right, cool, there's been no ghosts since, 84,
like,
basically.
Something happened that basically, like, the cross rip, I think is what they call it.
Exactly. And he's going
cool
to Shandor
term.
Mine, Evo Shandor from the first one with the building and everything. And then for it look to be that this is going to be Egon's grandkids,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, fuck, what a brilliant, cool story that is no longer like I have to worry about them being sanitation workers or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the thing of even at the end of this movie, I'm sure the Ghostbusters are back, but I don't want it to be that necessarily that and I'm saying this not having watched the movie, that the Ghostbusters are back. I'm totally fine with this not being cool. Now we're setting up franchises around the United States or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. Like when that trailer came out, and there's that shot of the girl, and it's just like, oh, that's a young female Egon.
Totally. And then when
she has the curly hair, and
dude,
the
when
big
they were
round
putting
glasses.
up the images, I was like, this is it's her granddaughter, it's his granddaughter. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like this is what it's going to be.
Like, that's
but
such
the
a-
way they play it in the trailer, and like Paul Rudd's like, who are you? And they show like
yeah.
the Spangler costume, and oh
Yeah,
my God,
it's like, oh, that's cool prop, and it's just like,
yeah.
oh, and it's so neat that they're setting up this universe where it's like, oh, the Ghostbusters were a thing, and then they kind of vanished.
totally
and it's like,
forgotten, yeah.
and there's a whole story there. It's like,
Yeah,
what
of course,
happened?
yeah.
Like, I mean, did literally all the ghosts just vanish, or were they
Yeah.
done? Like, we don't know the full extent of that, and so there's a lot of story to be told in the 30 years since really the last one. That like, I'm curious about what's going on, and it's also like, is it the mom? Is that Egon's daughter,
Yeah,
or was
yeah.
it the father who went away that we don't know about? Like. But yeah, seeing like the Shandor mine, and it's just like,
I'm pretty sure it's her that she's gonna be the daughter or whatever.
Okay.
And I think it'll be this whole thing of like, yeah, did he ever that they had this fractured relationship, and it wasn't because he was so lost in trying to figure out what was to come and where this is gonna go.
Yeah.
Because like when the initial trailer dropped, someone made not a joke even, but a real question, I think, in the chat about Egon being in the movie. And I was like, no, they'll never do that. And the more I've thought on it since, I'm like, fuck, that's going to be the final scene of this, right? Is that they are fighting whatever, the door swings both ways, they're doing the whole thing, and it is that Egon from the other side needs to
wow.
come. And I think it'll always be shot from the back or his boots.
Yeah.
But it'll be him coming through and doing whatever he needs to do. Or maybe he's the aftermath after they've cleared everything and
Yeah.
they've solved it. And it's going to be the three Ghostbusters and the family getting to say goodbye finally.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to bawl like a baby. Because I don't know if you read the Variety article where the guy got to follow Bill Murray on set for the day. And he had a question to him of like Bill Murray was talking about, he's like, we're down a man, and that's kind of what this whole movie's about. And he looked
wow.
away from the reporter, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
if that's where we're going with this, holy shit.
Did you read Ghostbusters' Daughter?
No,
It's actually pretty
Harold's
good.
daughter's book. Yeah, no, I
Violet, I
haven't
think is
yet.
her name.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, and
Yeah.
and she talks about like the fallout between Harold Ramis and Bill Murray
Yeah.
during Groundhog Day, and then like when Harold got real sick, like
Yeah.
basically like he spent like Bill Murray spent a day with Harold Ramis, and
Isn't the story that he showed up in their town and went to the police station and was like,
Yeah.
you got to take me to Harold. I
Yeah.
don't know where he lives. We've been in a fight, and the cops took him there.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
holy
like,
shit,
yeah, of
that's
course.
awesome.
But it sounded like they kind of like
Yeah, they had their
cleared
moment.
stuff up,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
like that makes me so happy because like they were clearly friends. I mean, like reading the story about like them making Caddyshack together and like all
Yeah,
this stuff.
of course.
They've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
around for a long time. It's
Yeah,
like,
but you hear the stories of Groundhog Day where it
Yeah.
was they couldn't talk to each other, and it's like
Yeah.
so heartbreaking that
and
that's how it
so even like just the idea that they're bringing it back and like like I mean Egon was my favorite, always my favorite because he
Yeah.
was the nerd, like he
Yeah,
was the
yeah,
one
yeah.
I collect spores, molds, and fungus, like
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was the geek in that group. Whereas like Venkman's like the cool guy. It's like no, I don't relate to him at all. But like the super nerd, yeah, that's me. Like
Yeah.
And so the idea that they do something like that, like that would be pretty crazy. I hope it is them saying goodbye as opposed to them joining. Like I don't want the door to swing and then just walk in like, oh, we're gonna join you now. It's like no.
Yeah, yeah.
But if something like that happens, we'll see. I mean that might be a little heavy-handed, but I mean I could see it happening. I mean
I agree that it's heavy-handed, but I
Yeah.
also think it's going to be. I think it would hit in the same way the end of Fast 9 hit, or Fast whatever, where
Okay.
Paul Walker died, right? Where it's like we're all having a shared moment to say goodbye to this character and this person.
Yeah,
Where it
yeah,
is
yeah.
sure the Ghostbusters are, but so are the actors. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And the scene we never got, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't make movies for a reason because I got bad ideas, so we'll see.
But I mean, there is that shot in the trailer. I think of the daughter where it's just like a hellscape behind her, where it's just like clearly she's somewhere
Or
so
seeing something,
Maybe
or-
it is something like that. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I love when you see these weird small threads. Like, oh, now we're paying it off. Like the whole idea of Shandor Mine, because Shandor is the guy who built the tower from the first movie, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, and all the metal inside of that tower was like a ghost rod essentially.
Ghost
and
worshiper.
and so now we're getting like, oh, this might be where that metal came from. And
Yeah.
like I love that idea. Like
Yeah.
that's such a cool, clever concept. It's like, oh yeah, it's like, one little throwaway line is now an entire subplot.
Totally,
of the movie.
right?
It's like that's pretty badass. And
Not to mention Jason Reitman's entire journey with this, right? Of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
his dad doing it, and then him being in Ghostbusters 2, and now him
Yeah.
getting to do this. Like, fuck yeah.
yeah, that's I'm very, very pumped for that. And it's coming out in July, right? I
Yeah.
think it's or end of June.
No, it's July. It's July.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I think it's actually coming out RTX weekends or something.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, so I may have to skip some panels to go see that.
Is that true? I'm pissed.
But yeah, so I'm super legit pumped for this, and I mean, it'd be nice to see more Ghostbusters. I don't know if this will start up a new franchise or start up a whole thing, but if handled properly, I could see this. I know Dan Aykroyd is like sort of the key master for Ghostbusters.
Dan Aykroyd's the man of like, yeah, I want it to happen no matter. Like he's always trying. If you want to go into the archives of Fox Thing in the Morning in Chicago, there was me talking to Harold Ramis on the phone when I called in to get my question answered.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, is there going to be a Ghostbusters 3? And Harold Ramis is very much like, man, Danny won't let it go. And so like ever since then, right, it's been this. Oh, when the 2016 gets announced, like, well, and Dan Aykroyd's like, well, we're making a Ghostbusters cartoon as well movie that'll be. And it's like, we get it, Dan. We get it that you're down for any Ghostbusters you could. July 10th.
July 10th. Okay, it's the weekend after.
We're fine. We're fine, everybody.
Okay, good. Yeah. Well, if you guys end up doing something for it, maybe I can fly out and be part
we're
of
doing
that.
in review for sure, so we'll figure out a way to get you involved with
Okay.
that. But if you want to just come out and watch it, that'd be great too.
I mean, obviously.
Okay.
I mean,
of course, though. I mean, Sony? How are we not getting invited to the premiere? That's the big question.
What's
you know
up,
what I mean?
Sony?
Yeah,
Which
of
that
course.
might be July 4th weekend.
Well, then I'm fucking gone.
Yeah, that's true.
Fuck RTX into the ground. I'm not gonna.
Sorry,
be
RTX. I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to
exactly.
go.
You understand too. Once in a lifetime.
But man, I'm just so legit. I'm so excited that there's this generation of geeks and nerds now making movies. You know,
Totally.
you see Taika Waititi making these movies. You see, your John Favreau's. You're seeing, Jason Reitman's. Like you're seeing like these movies coming up now that like we were raised in this stuff, and now we're treating it with the respect that it deserves, and that's what it comes down to. And so, I'm excited about this next generation of filmmakers and like,
totally.
the people who are now like our age that are like suddenly making stuff that's like incredibly.
It's what I try
important
to say all the time on shows, and I know it probably sounds so crazy and foreign to people who are young, right? Of just like, you understand, like, when we were growing up, the idea of a Ghostbusters 3, the idea of a shared universe Marvel, like that was impossible. We couldn't get anything made. You couldn't see, you'd always hear rumors of a Superman movie and it would never go anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's like the fact that, nerds took over the earth and now everything we want is pop culture and it's going everywhere. It's like, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now to the point that we can literally bitch about it nonstop on the internet.
Well, I mean, that's like the thing. I remember growing up when I was in middle school. It's like I played video games and I was the weirdo because I played video games. And I was like, now if you don't play video games, like, what the hell's wrong with you? It's like, you don't know Fortnite? And it's like,
get the hell out of here.
Yeah, and so it's like we blazed this path for this next generation.
All right, we did it for you.
So you're welcome, 12-year-olds.
Jack, are you ready to enter the friend zone?
Sure.
This is where the best friends from Kinda Funny go to patreon.com/kindafunny and ask you questions.
Okay.
The first one is a young boy named Barrett Courtney.
Oh.
Barrett Courtney. I think episode 1 is the last time we had somebody who actually wanted from our office to ask a question.
Oh, nice. All right.
How good is Trials Rising, dude?
Trials Rising. Holy crap, I love that game, man.
I love it so much.
So,
and you're the only other person I hear talk about it at all.
So Trials Rising is a physics-based motorcycle game from Ubisoft that I freaking love. It started as a flash game on the internet forever ago. It's called Trials, and then Trials HD hit the summer of Xbox, summer of arcade.
Yep,
I
Summer
think.
Arcade, I remember that.
And that was like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember I was at E3 and I was playing it. I was sitting in this little booth playing this game. And I sat there for like 2 hours playing it. So much so that Taro, the guy, one of the directors, came over and he's like, "Oh, you like the game?" I'm like, "I love this thing.
I love this game a lot."
And so,
Oh my God,
because I played a game when I was in high school called Elastomania, which is like this flash-based, physics-based motorcycle game, real goofy game, and I loved it. And so this was very much felt the same to me. And then I've just been following the Trials franchise ever since. So much so that in Trials of the Blood Dragon, Trials of the Blood Dragon, which was kind of a crossover thing, they asked me to do a couple lines of dialogue for it, which was really, really cool. So I got to be a voice in it. And it's funny because that came out when I was away from the office. So the guys at the office filmed a Let's Play of it.
Yeah.
They talked over my line. They were like, "Isn't Jack in this game? That's really weird."
You're screaming at your phone. It's like, "It's 10 minutes ago."
And so they're literally saying "When is Jack in the game?" as I was talking, which is pretty great. But yeah, Trials Rising is the newest version of it, and I love that game so very, very much. And if you're a fan of Trials Rising, the 1-year anniversary of Trials Rising is actually next week.
Oh, wow.
And they're doing a bunch of really cool stuff. And I'll just say there might be something there that if you're a fan of Trials Rising and you're a fan of stuff I've done, maybe you'll see something.
Another line of dialogue to talk over.
Little hint, little tease. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about the stuff yet. But anyway,
it was live. It's over. Don't worry.
Anyway, yeah, we'll friend DA it after this, and I'll give you the scoop. But
I had a similar I didn't have a actual motorcycle game to play in high school, but my friends and I loved Co-op. This was I had to play the demo for this back when I was working at IGN. They're like, hey, we want gameplay clips up and stuff like that. And I was playing it and I was like, oh my God, this gives me that vibe of like, all right, what are the physics and how do I get over this hill? And then like you get a couple of hours into it and it's not just that. It's like, all right, how many flips can I do off of this ramp and stuff like that? It's just like,
and then when you land you get those clean runs and you're like, oh yeah, nailed it.
So
it's like,
good.
It's such a good feeling.
So good.
Yeah, so Gavin and I are big fans of that game. And so the two of us, we just fall in love with it. And so we'll do like, gameplay where it's like the two of us competing against each other to complete stuff. And yeah, that's one of the few games I'm like, oh man, I can just pick it up and start playing it. And it's one of those things like, it's something about it I comprehend in a different way than any other game I ever have. So it's like I'm actually really good at that. Like some of the more difficult stuff in the game, I just love it. But I'm also super stubborn, so I'll just pound my head against something until I get it working. Yeah, so
the best way to play it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mitch Krassen wrote into patreon.com/kindoffunnygame. No, Kind of Funny, sorry. I'm on Kind of Funny Games Daily so much. I default to games. Shut up, peanut M&M boy. Don't be giving me crap. Mitch says, what has been one of the biggest growing pain for you personally throughout the changes at Achievement Hunter?
Man, realizing that the biggest pain for me growing is realizing that like I'm not always going to be the funniest. Like I'm not always going to be. I mean, it's what it comes down to. It's like there's times where it's like, man, all right, like I'm just going to kind of sit back and just like let other people go, and that's tough. Like as you know, as performers, like you always want to be in the front, and so there's times where it's like you have to realize like being a utility person is actually really, really important. It's like setting up those spikes for other people is sometimes more important than being the one spiking it.
Yeah.
And it's like. And finding your role in that group, it can be tough. And it's like understanding it's like, okay, I'm not always going to be the funniest person in the room. I'm not always going to be the most important for this stuff.
I'm not going to have the tweetable joke.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have the breakout clip.
And so, but like understanding like I love helping other people succeed. And so like what can I do to make your stuff better? Yeah. And so, but realizing that it's tough because like, oh yeah, and like there's going to be people more successful, more, like they get more credit for stuff. It's like, all right, but I helped make that happen. And
yeah,
so,
no,
like,
totally.
Internal win.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me personally, like, having, and this sounds so stupid, but being such a fan, I guess, of professional wrestling and backyard wrestling and stuff like that, putting someone over, right? The guy who loses to make the other guy look great. Like, I'm so happy in that role. You know what I mean? Like, surprise. I mean, shocker, I know, spoiler alert. But like, I love KFAF, but I love the fact that it's just Greg sucks and I go on there and I get fucked with. You know what I mean? And it's like the show that shows me no respect. And like, that's a fun dynamic to play with where Andy and Nick always get the one up. One day I'll get them. But it'll look like their break lines were cut. Parker Luckenbach writes into patreon.com/kindoffunny and says, Jack, he asks about the evolution of Achievement Hunter. We've already talked about that. But he says, how do you see it changing this year? We've been looking back a lot. He wants to look forward. And then he says, thanks for the Skate 2 guides.
Hey, Dan, Skate 2, old school, man. Love
Where the
Skate
hell's
2.
the new Skate?
Skate 4, hashtag Skate 4. Man, yeah. So this year, I think is going to be the year of new people. So you're going to see more Alfredo. You're going to see more Fiona. We're bringing in guests. We're just trying to bring in a new audience, but also the idea of doing more stuff on stage, doing more live action stuff. We've been really kind of leaning into that, and now we're going to try to do more of that. And sort of, I mean, the idea like with Achievement Hunter, like taking these personalities and what happens if we throw them in a ghost hunting show? It's like, okay, how does that work out?
What does that look like?
And so that's the idea. It's like, okay, we have these personalities. Let's put them in situations where things are weird. Things are different. And how would they interact with each other? And like, how does this, like, because the idea is we're building up a stable of people, and it's like, okay, we play video games mostly, but it's like, what happens if we throw them on a stage? What happens when we put them in doing different things? So more live action stuff, I think, will be our goal for 2019. And you're starting to see that more with like, we're bringing back versus now, but we're like, it's Achievement Hunter versus other groups. So like right now we're fighting RT Core and doing the challenges. And so it'd be like RT versus, or excuse me, like Achievement Hunter versus Funhouse. So yeah, more live action stuff and more of that, I think. That's going to be our goal. That's at least my goal is
you guys are always up to something.
Yeah, trying to make it funny.
Good.
Entertain
Jack,
that crowd.
Thank you for being a cool friend.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on here. Of course, everybody should go to where to get tickets for Achievement Hunter?
RTXevent.com. Buy your tickets right now. We're in Los Angeles for 2 shows. We got AH Live. We got Off Topic Live in LA. Week after, going to Seattle and San Francisco. And so we got the LA show. We're going to have our friends at Funhouse joining us. The San Fran show, our friends from Kind of Funny, are going to be joining us.
Seattle, the Seattle Seahawks.
Yes, the Supersonics. We're actually bringing them back. We're bringing them back from Oklahoma.
That's a hard.
They're going to fly them back in. It's going to be tricky, but we're going to go back in time. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I mean, our stage shows are so unique and so special. And if you get a chance to go to one, you have to go.
Yeah, it's I agree with that 100%.
So yeah, RTXevent.com. Buy your tickets. Still tickets available now. Still great seats.
Great. Jack, thanks so much for coming by.
Thank you very much, Greg. I appreciate
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been We Have Cool Friends. Of course, it's irregularly scheduled, meaning you never know when it'll come again, except that I tell you at the end of every episode. Next week, we're back with the one and only Josh McCouga, returning We Have Cool Friend to talk about his new show over on the History Channel, and also probably about some stupid thing like Bad Boys and how he likes that so much. Which is, Bad Boys 1 and 2 are as bad as peanut M&Ms. Just saying that. All right, lady, put it out there.
Big words.
Yeah, I boxed you on that one, Barrett. What are you gonna say, ladies and gentlemen? YouTube.com/kindafunny, Patreon.com/kindafunny with your questions from Makuga. Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.